you've given a push to a part of the economy which was struggling. I also believe that people are not thinking through as far as the capex number is concerned. So I think, on day one, whatever hits you on the face, people tend to react, instinctively. But let me give you some sense on the capex itself, right? So they had budgeted for 11.1. They finally revised that to 10.2.
Yes.
We have the numbers from April to December. The December number was a big number, 1.7 lakh crores, right? If you take April to December, then you have essentially 3.4 lakh crores to cover in Jan, Feb and March of this year, and 11.2 lakh crores in all of next year, which means you have to spend 14.6 trillion rupees in the next 15 months. To give you context, the first 9 months, the average monthly run rate was 76,000 crores of capex. If I now take 14.6 lakh crores, then the average monthly run rate for the next 15 months is going to be 97,000 crores. I don't think people are thinking. In no 15-month period have we seen a spending of 15.6 trillion rupees, right? Now, this is obviously assuming that whatever numbers they have given, they are to execute. But if you purely look at the map...
we request you to just hold on to your thoughts for a minute. We do have our colleague Parikshit, who's in conversation with the Commerce and Industry Minister, Piyush Goyal. So you might want to listen into this, and thereafter we'll hear your thoughts once again.
Right, joining us right now is Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal to speak to us about Union Budget 2025, the big push for supporting the middle class, startups and the manufacturing sector. Mr. Goyal, how do you think this budget fares in terms of giving more consumption power back to the middle class, because that had been a pain point over the last few quarters?
Well, it's a very transformational budget. It's balanced. Continuity is evident in the budget, but very strategic in its outlook. It has planned a vision very holistically. Now, the benefits given to the middle class, it straightaway results in money in the pocket of the middle class. India has a very rapidly growing middle class with 25 crore poor having come out of multidimensional poverty. You are rapidly seeing more and more people with increasing incomes. Their disposable income becomes much bigger, savings of up to 1 lakh of rupees for all those who are earning up to 25 lakh rupees. And for those who are in a job at 12 lakh 75,000 rupees salary, you have zero income tax. I think it's a very, very big message that so far the government had focused on investment-led growth. Now we will have investment-led and consumption-led growth, which is how developed economies of the world have been created. So it's the right pathway to a developed India.
Sir, there was a concern about India's growth going forward, whether there are structural problems. The CA has said that the growth in this fiscal could be between 6.4 to 6.8%. What is your view on what this budget will now do for growth revival for FY25 and FY26?
My sense is this budget and the number of elements it touches, whether it's MSMEs, whether it's farmers, whether it's the youth for creating more job opportunities, our startups, creating the right infrastructure mix, monetizing 10 lakh crores worth of assets for reinvestment into the economy, focusing on ease of doing business, the Jan Vishwas Bill 2 also coming in now, working with the states.
मिशन को ड्राइव करने वाला है। ये बजट एक फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट सेविंग्स को बढ़ाएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाएगा, कंजम्पशन को बढ़ाएगा और ग्रोथ को भी तेजी से बढ़ाएगा। मैं वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को इस जनता जनार्दन का बजट, पीपल्स का बजट, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, आमतौर पर बजट का फोकस इस बात पर रहता है कि सरकार का खजाना कैसे भरेगा, लेकिन ये बजट उससे बिल्कुल उल्टा है। लेकिन ये बजट देश के नागरिकों की जेब कैसे भरेगी, देश के नागरिकों की बचत कैसे बढ़ेगी और देश के नागरिक विकास के भागीदार कैसे बनेंगे, ये बजट इसकी एक बहुत मजबूत नींव रखता है। साथियों, इस बजट में रिफॉर्म की दिशा में महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाए गए हैं। न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी में प्राइवेट सेक्टर को बढ़ावा देने का निर्णय बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। ये आने वाले समय में सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी का बड़ा योगदान देश के विकास में सुनिश्चित करेगा। बजट में रोजगार के सभी क्षेत्रों को हर प्रकार से प्राथमिकता दी गई है। लेकिन मैं दो चीजों पर ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूंगा। उन रिफॉर्म्स की मैं चर्चा करना चाहूंगा जो आने वाले समय में बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन लाने वाले हैं। एक, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्टेटस देने के कारण भारत में बड़े शिप्स के निर्माण को बढ़ावा मिलेगा, आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान को गति मिलेगी। और हम सब जानते हैं कि शिप बिल्डिंग ये सर्वाधिक रोजगार देने वाला क्षेत्र है। उसी प्रकार से देश में टूरिज्म के लिए बहुत संभावना है। महत्वपूर्ण 50 टूरिस्ट डेस्टिनेशन, वहां पर जो होटल्स बनाएंगे, उस होटल को पहली बार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के दायरे में लाकर टूरिज्म पर बहुत बल दिया है। इससे हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर को, जो रोजगार का बहुत बड़ा क्षेत्र है, और टूरिज्म जो रोजगार का सबसे बड़ा क्षेत्र है, एक प्रकार से चारों तरफ रोजगार के अवसर पैदा करने वाला एक क्षेत्र को ऊर्जा देने वाला काम करेगा। आज देश विकास भी विरासत भी इस मंत्र को लेकर चल रहा है। इस बजट में भी इसके लिए भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण और ठोस कदम उठाए गए हैं। 1 करोड़ पांडुलिपियों के लिए संरक्षण के लिए, मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के लिए ज्ञान भारतम मिशन लॉन्च किया गया है। साथ ही भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा से प्रेरित एक नेशनल डिजिटल रिपोजिटरी बनाई जाएगी। यानी टेक्नोलॉजी का भरपूर उपयोग किया जाएगा और हमारा जो परंपरागत ज्ञान है उसमें से अमृत निचोड़ने का भी काम होगा। साथियों, बजट में किसानों के लिए जो घोषणा हुई है वो कृषि क्षेत्र और समूची ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था में नई क्रांति का आधार बनेगी। पीएम धन धान्य कृषि योजना के तहत 100 जिलों में सिंचाई और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का डेवलपमेंट होगा। किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड की लिमिट 5 लाख तक होने से उन्हें ज्यादा मदद मिलेगी। साथियों, अब इस बजट में 12 लाख रुपए तक की आय को टैक्स से मुक्त कर दिया गया है। सभी आय वर्ग के लोगों के लिए टैक्स में भी कमी की गई है। इसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा हमारे मिडिल क्लास को, नौकरी पेशे करने वाले जिनकी आय बंधी हुई है, ऐसे लोगों को, मिडिल क्लास को इससे बहुत बड़ा लाभ होने वाला है। उसी प्रकार से जो नए नए प्रोफेशन में आए हैं, जिनको नए नए जॉब मिले हैं, इनकम टैक्स की ये मुक्ति उनके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा अवसर बन जाएगी। साथियों, इस बजट में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर 360 डिग्री फोकस है, ताकि एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को, एमएसएमईज को, छोटे उद्यमियों को मजबूती मिले और नई जॉब पैदा हो। नेशनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मिशन से लेकर क्लीन टेक, लेदर, फुटवियर, टॉय इंडस्ट्री जैसे अनेक सेक्टर्स को विशेष समर्थन दिया गया है। लक्ष्य साफ है कि भारतीय प्रोडक्ट्स ग्लोबल मार्केट में अपनी चमक बिखेर सके। साथियों, राज्यों में इन्वेस्टमेंट का एक वाइब्रेंट कॉम्पिटिटिव माहौल बने, इस पर बजट में विशेष जोर दिया गया है। एमएसएमईज और स्टार्टअप के लिए क्रेडिट गारंटी को दोगुना करने की घोषणा भी हुई है। देश के एससी, एसटी और महिला जो नए उद्यमी बनना चाहते हैं, उनको 2 करोड़ रुपए तक के लोन की योजना भी लाई गई है, और वो भी बिना गारंटी। इस बजट में न्यू एज इकोनॉमी को ध्यान में रखते हुए गीग वर्कर्स के लिए बहुत बड़ी घोषणा की गई है। पहली बार गीग वर्कर्स का ई श्रम पोर्टल पर रजिस्ट्रेशन किया जाएगा। इसके बाद इन साथियों को स्वास्थ्य सेवा और दूसरी सोशल सिक्योरिटी स्कीम्स का लाभ मिलेगा। ये डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर, इसके प्रति, श्रम एव जयते के प्रति सरकार के कमिटमेंट को दर्शाता है। रेगुलेटरी रिफॉर्म से लेकर फाइनेंशियल रिफॉर्म्स, जन विश्वास 2.0 जैसे कदमों से मिनिमम गवर्नमेंट और ट्रस्ट बेस्ड गवर्नेंस के हमारे कमिटमेंट को और बल मिलेगा। साथियों, ये बजट न केवल देश की वर्तमान आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखता है, बल्कि हमें भविष्य की तैयारी करने में भी मदद करता है। स्टार्टअप के लिए डीप टेक फंड, जियोस्पेशल मिशन और न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी मिशन ऐसे ही महत्वपूर्ण कदम है। मैं सभी देशवासियों को एक बार फिर इस ऐतिहासिक पीपल्स बजट की बधाई देता हूं, और फिर एक बार वित्त मंत्री जी को भी बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
All right. Well, that's our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Seems pretty pleased with the budget that was just announced. Well, let's take a couple of other pointers that the street has been debating about, and that's the insurance stocks. They've been all over the place. To help us out with, the first take with regard to the insurance companies, we have Ms. Vibha, the CEO of HDFC Life, who joins us on the show. Hi, Vibha. Good afternoon and good to see you, and thanks a lot for joining in. Well, one factor is been on with regard to the changes in taxation, particularly for the new structure, and the other one is on ULIP. Let's take the first point first. Since there will be some kind of leeway given, particularly on the new structure, the fear is that it could result in fewer people taking insurance, and in that regard, hitting your volumes. What do you have to say with regard to that?
Couple of points here, and thank you for having me on this show. The first point is it's widely available data that almost 70% of taxpayers have moved to the new tax regime. That is the first data point. Second data point is with our own policy holders, less than 2%, our analysis shows that less than 2% are dependent on tax or tax being a reason for them possibly buying life insurance. So really a non-material number, and even that would reduce as we go along. So we have moved a long way from a tax being the reason. This might have been certainly the case a decade ago, but now given innovation in the sector and many other products and emphasis on more and more of protection, I think at least certainly for HDFC Life, but I think even broader for the sector, just given the number of people who've moved away into the new tax regime, I don't think that is really a dampener in any form or shape.
Well, that's heartening to hear, actually, Vibha, not just from a market perspective or from a policy perspective, but people are taking insurance because of, for the core interest with regard to insurance, not because of, tax exemptions. Yeah, Prashant.
No, Vibha, hi, afternoon, Prashant here. So you're saying that 2% of ATC roughly contributes about 2% of the new individual premium. That's what you're saying?
ATC is overcrowded, as you know, Prashant. There are many, many things, and if you're salaried, in all probability, when we do an income proxy, we know that even if they did not buy life insurance, their contribution to Provident Fund, other things, ELSs and so on, would have consumed or utilized ATC anyway. So that was not the primary reason or the reason at all for them buying life insurance.
The other change was this redemption of unit-linked schemes, right? And for a brief period, there was a misunderstanding. There was a little bit of fear that maybe, it's being taxed at capital gains. But then clarity, Yash told us that it was being added to your income tax, charged at the marginal rate. Now actually it is going to be taxed at 12.5%, which is the capital gains tax. Is that the correct interpretation?
Yeah, absolutely, and actually it's significantly better. So let me just deconstruct, the somewhat of a misunderstanding in terms of what was intended. First of all, the language, and I'm just referring to the language mentioned by the FM, is bringing clarity in income on redemption. So it was to bring clarity and not to introduce anything new, anything that was significantly adverse. Now, post 2021, 1st of February 2021, there was a cap of 2,50,000, and anything above 2,50,000 annual premium was taxed, and it was taxed and continues to be taxed as capital gains tax. Up to 2,50,000 was tax-free. Now, before the policies that were sold before 1st of February 2021, if they adhered to certain conditions, for example, number of times of the ratio of premium to sum assured, then it was completely tax-free, regardless of the quantum. However, there were some other policies that didn't satisfy this multiple of sum assured, and they were being then taxed and continuing to be taxed until today at the highest marginal tax rate. So all that the provisions now unveiled are going to do is to simplify it, to say that anything that is not compliant will now be taxed under capital gains tax, instead of all this hybrid of earlier was a marginal tax rate and so on. That's all there is to it.
Okay.
And just to add on that, if we were to look at, say, hypothetically, if I had bought a policy before February 21 and say I had only a 6 times sum assured, then that would have not been even then eligible for under Section 1010D. And so I would have been paying at highest marginal tax rate. So if a taxpayer has been paying or would have paid a maturity proceeds at 30% tax, now it will be at a capital gains tax rate at 12.5% tax. So actually there is a benefit for those policyholders that would have bought their policies before 21.
Okay. Ma'am, the third important announcement from the insurance sector is opening up the sector to 100% FDI. Will it impact listed players like you, one? And two, how does this change the competitive dynamics? Would some of the unlisted players now get that 100% FDI and therefore become a lot more competitive and aggressive?
While I welcome 100% in insurance, being pragmatic, even when it went up to 74%, it's not like there was a lot of money flow. What could happen is there could be some foreign insurers or foreign investors for whom it's either 100% or it is zero. It could attract people like that, or if they want full control and don't want a partner, say if their brand presence as an insurer somewhere else is extremely strong. But barring that, will it make a huge change in dynamic to the competitive intensity? I don't think so. I think what is really important is some sort of regulatory certainty. I think that is the biggest aspect that will attract flows into the, why only insurance sector, but any sector really. And that's really what could be a game changer in terms of certainty on regulatory outlook.
All right. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for joining in and giving us all your views on this space, assuaging some of the fears that the street had with regards to shift into the new tax regime and that impacting business for you as well. But, meanwhile, while this conversation was on, there was a lot of fear in the jewelry space that will there be any increase in customs duty for gold once again or not? There has been a notification, but there is clarity as well that there is no specific change coming in for gems and jewelry sector. The new tariff line that has been introduced is largely to differentiate between gold, which is imported in bar forms, and the other forms. Most of the gold imported in the country right now is in bar forms, but increasingly there was some platinum alloys, etc., that were being imported as well. And that had an impact on the overall equilibrium of the market. Okay. So this tariff is on the non-bar gold import, which is not a big portion of this business as well. So on account of that uncertainty, we had seen a big dip on names like Titan and Kalyan Jewelers. We'll just keep an eye out on that. The clarification that has come, there is no specific change for gems and jewelry sector when it comes to this business itself. But Hiren Ved is still with us. Hiren, thank you for waiting patiently, hearing out all the conversations that we've been having on the channel so far. But you were making a point on capex that the street may have been overreacting to this less allocation towards capex. You complete that point, and a word on consumption stocks from here on as well.
Yeah, so just to complete the capex point, right? I mean, as I mentioned, if you look at the data for the first 9 months, the actual numbers that have been spent gives you a run rate of about 76,000 crores a month. They now have put that by March end, they will spend 10.2 as opposed to 11.1, which means that you have another 3.4 lakh crores for this 3 months and a total of 11.2 lakh crores for the rest of the 12 months.
Yes.
Which means that in the next 15 months, you will have to spend at the run rate of 97,000 crores a month, as opposed to 75,000 crores that you spent in the first 9 months of this year. That is actually a 30% increase, right? But as I said, people tend to react very spontaneously. Very clearly, the big delta of this budget is the push given to consumption, and therefore it's very apparent in the consumer stocks. And I believe that rightly so, most of them have been bid up. But even there, I think that to the point that Sandeep also made, is that substantially going to change the volume growth for the FMCG companies? We have to wait and see. But clearly, from a sentiment perspective and the fact that the biggest needle has moved in terms of consumption, we are seeing a significant rally in consumer stocks as well.
Okay, got that, Hiren. Thanks a lot for joining, Hiren, and giving us your initial take with regard, to the budget. But Sandeep, before we let you go, one final question to you. I recall when we chatted the last time around, you were not ruling out further downside. Maybe a 10% correction is something that we could be bracing for. We almost got that, and we have bounced back in the last few sessions. What do you think? Budget is already done now. I mean, most of it is done. That we'll have the RBI. Hopefully, they inject some liquidity. But on ground, sentiment is still a little bit subdued. Earnings really haven't picked up. So what's your take for the remainder of this year with regard to the Nifty's moves? All right, Sandeep, I think, you're on mute. We'll just try to... Yeah, Sandeep, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Sandeep.
So remainder of the year is some time away, but we are on 1st Feb today. I think in the near term, the market will have some legs and strength. I do expect a rate cut. I do expect liquidity injection to happen, and all that should be good news for the market in the near term. The earnings picture is not going to be as buoyant as the policy announcements and the rate cuts that I'm expecting. And around the earnings season, again, there could be weakness. That's what I expect. I think the real turning point for this market is how the meeting with President Trump and PM Modi goes in February at the White House, and if India can continue to work, which I do expect with the US, and that would be good news for the markets, and that would be a more longer-term positive picture. But in the near term, earnings will continue, and lack of earnings will put pressure on the market, and that remains unchanged.
I mean, that's interesting. That meeting, the stakes are rising. Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump, and what can come out of it, some sort of an agreement. I mean, it's certainly a break from the past. Which way is the break going to be is the question. Sandeep, thank you very much for staying with us and, of course, taking all those questions. And we look forward to our next conversation. Thank you. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We'll come back. Nilesh Shah of Envision comes back. You heard from him pre-budget. So he'll give you his take on what we've seen. And we'll also have Shardul Shroff joining in. And that is going to be a broader conversation on what Mr. Shroff has made of the budget. Stay tuned, coming back.
I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. Enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Vikasit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of
Welcome back. Absolutely unchanged on the benchmark indices, but railway stocks are tumbling hard and fast. IRCON down 8%, RVNL, IRFC, Jupiter Wagons seeing cuts anywhere between 6 to 8%. And these are stocks which have fallen 30 to 50% from their 52-week highs in the last couple of months. That said, stocks like RVNL have gone up 1,000% in the last 3 years. They've had a massive run up. They've undergoing profit booking. And in the budget, there is no increase in the railway capex for FY26. And that has disappointed the street. For defense, there has been an increase. But for railway capex, it's absolutely unchanged. And the street is a bit disappointed. As we said, the stocks have had a big run up. RVNL, for instance, is up 1,100,000 or 1,100% in the last 3 years. Nilesh Shah, MD and CEO of Envision Capital, is now with us on the show. Nilesh, thank you for joining in. So outside of the big thrust on consumption, tell us, are there any other portfolio plays that you would recommend post the budget?
So, apart from consumption, I clearly believe there's one sector for which budget has been positive is the insurance sector. And I say this because first, of course, is the overall FDI limit has been raised to 100%, which was widely expected, but nevertheless, that gets confirmed. So that's, I think, a key proposal. The other thing going positive for the insurance sector is that given that the tax exemption limit has been raised for the middle class, the post-tax take-home or the post-tax disposable income goes up. That gives them a lot more leeway to spend on healthcare. And within healthcare, clearly health insurance is a priority. So clearly believe that outside the core consumption space, the discretionary consumption space, I think one sector which benefits trade because of this clearly is the insurance space. I think there's a lot for the sector there.
Now for you to increase your allocation to insurance, if you have a medium to long-term view?
Yeah, I clearly think it should be part of it. And we've essentially been liking more the insurance distributor, the insurance platform company, and not the standalone insurance companies. But maybe with these developments, we'd probably take a hard look at some of the standalone insurers, especially the health insurers. That space is interesting. Some of them have essentially kind of been very aggressive in their underwriting, realizing mistakes. There has been a course correction. In some cases, stock prices have also corrected sharply. So clearly, I think we remain constructive. So maybe it's time for us now to start looking at standalone health insurance companies as well.
There's Star Health and others as well. We have Mr. Shardul Shroff as well, Executive Chairman of Shardul Amarshal Mangaldas and Company. Mr. Shroff, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on this important day. What are the key points? I mean, there's of course the personal income taxation, but from a corporate perspective, we heard a lot of stuff on focusing on ease of doing business, etc. What are the top 2 or 3 things which really will make an impact, maybe not on day one, but which you think are meaningful?
I think the fact that ultimately the income above 24 lakhs will get uniformly taxed at 30%, and that has an impact on the consumption budget and the capital budget for the middle income group. Now, as far as the corporates go, clearly 2 things which matter are the new Income Tax Act, which is expected in the next week. That's what she said in her budget speech. And she has also indicated that the Income Tax Act would be reduced to half its current form. Now, this is an interesting development because you're having a significant change in the law. I hope they don't bring in new stuff, because I've been just reading her speech and there is a lot to be said in relation to the speech. I understand that there's a changed definition of capital asset for the purposes of capital gains. I'll have to pay focus to that. And the other change which is happening is going to be the decriminalization of laws. About 120 laws still need to be decriminalized. And that is something which you will see in the context of how the law is simplified. This budget is a budget which has a simplification as a norm. And besides the Income Tax Act and besides the decriminalization, I think the compliance aspect for small charitable institutions, the fact that ease of doing business has been made part of the budget, the fact that the laws which have become obsolete and which some years ago the government had scrapped by a single bill, all these changes will have an impact on the corporates.
No, absolutely. Mr. Shroff, quick comment today, but I think you'll come back for a more extensive chat over the coming days as we sort of go through and pour over the budget. But for now, let me cut across to my colleague Shireen, who's in conversation with Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, the Petroleum Minister. Shireen, over to you.
Well, thanks very much, guys. Yes, joining us now live and exclusive here on CNBC-TV18, the Oil and Gas Minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri. Mr. Puri, many thanks for joining us here. As I've been pointing out, Mr. Puri, it's been a focus on... We'll just get him in a second. But of course, as far as the oil and gas sector in specific is concerned, you can see the oil marketing companies under pressure. And that is largely on account of the fact that LPG under recoveries have not been factored in. So that has not been allocated. And that is what we will seek more clarity on. But that's the impact as far as the OMCs are concerned. That is the call there for the oil marketing companies on the under-recovery side. But, stocks like RVNL, etc., also under pressure. And that's largely RailTel, largely on account of the fact that it's pretty much status quo as far as the railway capex is concerned. And overall, the capex is at about 11.21 lakh crore rupees. Prashant, we'll come back to Mr. Puri as we get him to join us. But for now, I'll hand it back to you.
I think, Shireen, just one point that you'd like to make. Mangalam just made that point with regard to clarification on gold. And, Titan was the stock that had taken a hard knock. Kalyan Jewellers as well as taken a hard knock. And Mangalam essentially said there's no big change. Just take a look at those stocks. In the last 10 minutes or so, both of them have seen a big recovery from the lows of the day. I think Titan was down close to around 3% or thereabouts. That's recovered. And Kalyan Jewellers, I think Mangalam was down 4% odd. So big recovery. The street is taking note of that clarification.
Yeah, this market currently has been a trader's paradise. If you look at the way the stocks have moved, we earlier saw the way the reaction was on Dixon Tech. Yes. There was, Vodafone Idea, all of them surging, and thereafter they've been sold into as well.
Insurance today.
Insurance as well. All of them. It's been all over the place. So similar is the case that has taken place on, the jewelry space as well. The street was looking at, a proposed increase in the alloys of gold. Anything which has less than 99% pure gold or silver will be they will be a tariff of 10% imposed on that. That was mainly to differentiate or put in at par the gold alloy imports versus gold bar imports. Gold bar imports, there was always a certain duty, and as a result of there being no duty on alloys, there was this arbitrage that was playing on, and now that there has been just normalized. So nothing specifically changes for these companies, and after that big decline, we've seen a recovery, subsequent recovery as well.
Absolutely. I think, markets all told with about, 15-20 minutes to go are just about 15 odd points lower, right? I mean, that's essentially the story by close. And it's been true for the last 2-3 budgets now. The close has been absolutely inconsequential. Flattish has been the close. I think we can toss it back to Shireen. She's got Mr. BVR Subramaniam, Chief Executive Officer, NITI Aayog. Shireen?
That is right, Mr. Subramaniam. Many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. To start with, what the budget delivers on in terms of growth. What are the big takeaways that you read into as far as the budget is concerned?
Okay, I've been hearing a lot of comments on the budget since morning. First of all, it's an outstanding budget. It supports growth. It will accelerate growth. It addresses all the choke points or all the bottlenecks which will hinder growth. But one point I think a lot of people are missing. If you see the fine print, the GDP of India next year crosses $4 trillion. It's 357 lakh crores. That translates to $4.1 trillion. The budget has been a very finely balanced act. They've addressed both the consumption side as well as the supply side. And I think that's remarkable. And all that has been done, but there has been fiscal compression, both on fiscal deficit and also some tax giveaways to the middle class. When about 2.5 lakh crores is the compression that has been done in terms of either less revenues or cutting the fiscal deficit. So I think we must actually compliment the finance ministry, the finance minister, and the team working with her to produce a budget like this. If you want, let me just tell you what the macro picture is. It's a very simple budget. About 50 lakh crores is the expenditure, 35 lakh crores is the revenues, and 15 lakh crores is the deficit. That's 4.4%. She's cut the fiscal deficit from 4.8 to 4.4%. I think it's a solid signal to the external world that India is for fiscal prudence, India is for fiscal stability, and I think it's an excellent signal to the global investor community that while we promote development, we promote growth, and we are going to invest for the future, we will also manage our fisc very, very efficiently, prudently. And the big thing is, this is a budget for Vikasit Bharat. First thing, this budget has to be actually read along with the previous budget. We must understand these two budgets have come with a gap of 6 months. So I think that budget addressed some issues like skilling, employment. I think that was the big focus. If you look at this budget, the big focus here is 2 or 3 things which are very, very apparent. Number one is manufacturing. I mean, it's out there, up there, a national manufacturing mission, an export promotion mission. There's some things which he didn't speak, but you need to read the print and see the schemes. There is one for industrial parks. There is one for industrial housing. There are a whole host of things there. So I think manufacturing and exports is one big leg of the mission. The second one is actually agriculture. India, a lot of people don't realize, has actually more agricultural land under cultivation than any other country in the world, including the United States. And she said that very correctly. India can be the food basket of the world. And I think there's a lot of stuff there to support. I think she's mentioned they've drawn inspiration from the Aspirational Districts program, 100 districts for one program, 100 districts for the other program. And I think that's a big, big takeaway. The third thing, and which is again something which people don't think about very quickly, it's the focus on cities and urban. I mean, that's almost 8 or 10 paragraphs in a speech only on cities and urban. Now, if that is not infrastructure, what it is? It is also infrastructure. And in cities, they're putting aside a 1 lakh crore urban growth challenge fund. I mean, that is for cities as growth hubs. This is not metros. This is for other infrastructure which cities need. And I think this is something which is going to be a very, very big landmark initiative. The other thing, which I don't know how many people are noticing it, the mention of a nuclear mission, a nuclear power mission, and 2 commitments to amend the Atomic Energy Act and to amend the Civil Nuclear Liability Act. This and the boost in budget to the Science and Technology Department. It's about 25,000 crores which is going for science and technology. That's larger than the increase in allocations for many other areas. So I think these are 4 or 5 big areas in which the budget is actually focusing on. And on the supply side, one thing, the investment in human beings, I think that's big. Education, healthcare, women, children. I think there's a huge increase. If you look at this whole as a group, it's about a 45,000 crore increased allocation for all these put together. I mean, this is investment in people because they're all part of the supply chain. The demographic dividend, if it has to be exploited, if that has to be taken advantage of, you need to invest in people. And 47 looks far away, but for the child being born today, that child is going to be the workforce of 2047. I think that investment is going in.
One of the other aspects of this budget, sir, has been a lot of focus on getting the centre and the states to work together, whether it is to do with the identification of those 50 tourist destinations where the government believes that the centre and the state should partner and work together, or on many of the other aspects that the government has also spoken on, including putting out a competitive index of states and how they are performing in the context of ease of doing business and deregulation, something that we've seen previously as well. On this centre-state compact, how far does the budget take us and how effective do you believe it's likely to be in moving the needle?
I think there is a huge amount of work. I mean, if India has to be Viksit Bharat, then I said this is a budget for Viksit Bharat. There has to be lifting jointly both by the centre and states. And if you see the Urban Challenge Fund, the monies have to be spent by states, which means they have to actually come up with proposals, and the government will match it. They've said they'll give a 25% grant, and they're pushing states towards PPP and private participation. They said almost 50% of that has to come from banks, bonds, or PPP. There's the other one, the one on a couple of other missions which are there. The one on agriculture, the 2 missions there depend totally on state governments. The one on industrial parks, again, industrial parks have to come from state. There is one on industrial housing, again, it has to come from state. So there are a large number of initiatives there which are actually funding states, apart from the 1.5 lakh crores which is for the long-term capex loans. This requires states to get their act going. And I think NITI also will have a role there in actually helping states projectize ideas and bringing them so that they can be funded by various ministries. So I think the centre-state compact is coming through very, very strongly. Apart from, I mean, the total devolution going to states in this particular budget is about 25 lakh crores, of which only 15 lakh crores is actually Finance Commission related grants. The other 10 lakh crores is central or centrally sponsored scheme related transfers. All these require states to also get their act going. Even on the reform side, there is this mention of this committee, a high-powered committee on regulatory reforms. There's a clear mention there that the states will also have to be brought on board. I think this also has to be read with the economic survey which was produced yesterday by the CA. The clear mention, let's get government out of the way. I think that's the message there. And when we talk of government there, it is not just central government. I guess 80% of that is state government. Land, labor, electricity, utilities, water supply, roads, they're all state issues, state subjects. So I think this budget not only moves the needle forward on things like manufacturing, agriculture, etc., it also brings to the forefront that center and state has to work together, and they're putting the money to actually enable states to do what is required to be done. This is on the growth side. I'd also like to mention one thing on the tax side. This is actually addressing, if you've been reading the media for the last couple of months, general talk about, it's on the demand side, there's a lack of consumption demand, etc. I mean, putting 1 lakh crores into people's pockets, and the middle class actually have a very high propensity to spend. This money is not going to go into bank accounts or, or fixed deposit. It's going to circulate in the economy. And it'll also have a huge multiplier effect. So I actually see this addressing one major side of the demand equation. Similarly, I think the capex, I mean, it's remarkable that while there's this fiscal compression, 1 lakh crores given away in taxes, 1.5 lakh crores compression as far as fiscal deficit is concerned, you're still able to keep your capex. It's 3.1%, as good as it can be, and you're also incentivizing states with 1.5 lakh crore thing. And other thing is, she didn't mention it in her budget, but you need to read the numbers. I mean, the investment in railways is being maintained. The investment in roads is being maintained. And you see the additional focus now on cities, which is also infrastructure. We don't forget that, we tend to forget that cities are as important as railways and roads. And I think this is the future. We are rapidly urbanizing, and the budget is investing in high quality urbanization.
High quality urbanization, consumption, and of course growth. The budget ticks all boxes. It's an outstanding budget. Those are the words of the NITI Aayog CEO BVR Subramaniam, and also lays down a framework for a deeper center-state compact. Mr. Subramaniam, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on a big day on CNBC-TV18. Thanks very much for your insights and for your opinion this afternoon. Well, we're almost getting to the point of the market close. Prashant, Nigel Mangalam, back to you.
All right, Shreen, thank you very much for that. That's a very interesting conversation there. Markets are down 30 points. There is about, I think, 13 minutes to go as far as closing is concerned. I mean, the trends largely hold. Maybe there is a bit of moderation which has happened in prices, but it's largely consumption. And Mangalam Trend, Maruti, Tata Consumer, Eicher, Bajaj, ITC, Mahindra, Asian Paints, there is not one single infra type name there on the gaining side.
Take that point, and it's been a long time since these names were gaining as well, right? So their time, perhaps, as they say in the movies, apna time aa gaya for the consumption stocks itself. And while we speak about consumption, low ticket urban, mass consumption itself, some of the urban mass premium consumption is doing as well too. If you're earning more than 25 lakh rupees and you're saving 1.1 lakh rupees on a annual basis on your taxes, what are you buying? Are you looking to buy some luxury watches? Look at Ethos. That stock too has been down in the doldrums from the highs and now suddenly up around 10% So not only are you eating pizzas, a 9% up move is what we're seeing on Ethos as well.
Real estate is the other sector which is doing very well. The real estate index is up more than 3%. Macrotech 6.5%, Prestige up 5%, Parswanath, Sobha, DLF all gaining up. So
I don't know if you save more than you drink more also, because you have United Spirits, United Breweries, both of them at the high point of the day, Mangalam. So
urban consumption, all of that doing extremely well. So what we'll do is, while all these consumption-related names are doing well, you're watching us here on CNBC TV18, but not only on the television. CNBC TV18 is the #1 business news outlet on YouTube as well, the most viewed channel on budget day among the English business news outlets. CNBC TV18 clocked more than 3.3 lakh concurrent views on YouTube. This is nearly 3 times more than our nearest competitor. CNBC TV18 remains your budget headquarters for the last 25 years. And for that, we have no one but you to thank. All you viewers, thank you for your continued support, not only on television, but on digital, and as we speak, on YouTube as well.
Presently, taxpayers can claim the annual value of self-occupied properties as nil only on the fulfillment of certain conditions. Considering the difficulties faced by taxpayers, it is proposed to allow the benefit of 2 such self-occupied properties without any condition. To streamline the process of transfer pricing and to provide an alternative to yearly examination, I propose to introduce a scheme for determining arm's length price of international transaction for a block period of 3 years. This will be in line with global best practices. With a view to reduce litigation and provide certainty in international taxation, the scope of safe harbor rules is being expanded. A number of senior and very senior citizens have very old national savings schemes accounts. As interest is no longer payable on such accounts, I propose to exempt withdrawals made from NSS by individuals on or after 29th August 2024. I am also proposing to allow similar treatment to NPS Vatsalya accounts as is available to normal NPS accounts subject to overall limits. The middle class provides strength for India's growth. This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil tax slab was raised to 2.5 lakhs of rupees, which was further raised to 5 lakh rupees in 2019 and to 7 lakh rupees in 2023. This is reflective of our government's trust on the middle class taxpayers. I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees. So, the indirect tax reforms and changes in direct taxes in Part B. Financial sector reforms. The FDI limit for the insurance sector will be raised from 74 to 100%. This enhanced limit will be available for those companies which invest the entire premium in India. The current guardrails and conditionalities associated with foreign investment will be reviewed and simplified. The services of India Post Payment Bank will be deepened and expanded in rural areas.
Okay, no big change on the market screen, just 40 points lower on a 23,000 near 500 kind of index. So gains largely intact, which the market has accumulated from the lows that we've seen last Monday. So this is, of course, just a couple of minutes to go before we wrap up things this Saturday afternoon. Shardul Shroff, of course, has been very patiently waiting by. Shardul, I trust you heard the NITI Aayog CEO speak with my colleague Shireen. And very interesting, forceful remarks. I mean, this is a budget for Vikasit Bharat. But, that is one. But the other thing is, there was some, at the margin, not widespread, but some fear, especially after the economic survey and what we heard from the CA as well, that 7-8 years now, a corporate tax rate went down from 35% to 25%. And there was a table in the economic survey yesterday as well. Job addition has been anemic, absolutely anemic. So, organized, well-paying jobs, I mean.
Yeah.
And that maybe the government will do something to correct that. But what they've done is, of course, lower taxes on the personal income tax side.
Correct.
On the corporate side, thankfully, nothing.
Yes.
You think that's an area of focus going forward?
I think the fact that corporate taxes don't go down is the manner in which the deficit is kept, intact. You have the FRBM and you have to maintain the deficit level below 5%. So not decreasing the corporate tax has the benefit of, continuity in terms of taxation. Not reducing the HNI income also has the ability of raising the revenue bucket. And I think all in all, it's a good budget.
Shardul, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time here on CNBC-TV18, and we'll speak again. But good conversation after a long time. Prakash is back with us to wrap things up. There's 4 minutes to go for close. Prakash, some of the moves that we're seeing is all local investors, foreigners, of course, absent today, holiday.
Yeah.
Some of these moves on consumption, etc., will last. As Mangalam was saying, there's no counterparty in that sense today.
Absolutely. So these are just gimmicky things. You get some names, you want to kind of trade on that, and you made money on both sides today. So even if you sold, you made money. You bought, you made money. A lovely market, but.
And at times in the same stock.
Yeah, absolutely, and that shows that it's so indecisive. And it'll take some time because consumption is not something which will change numbers overnight. So and there's no point buying into the dying moments of the market and say, oh, this is the last day you get to buy. But consumption makes sense. So you could choose so many things out of that because everything is undervalued from a relative perspective.
So if you could, just give 3 stocks after today's budget that people should look at.
So let me give you names, which of course you could do it on Monday, but think about it.
Today.
So I was talking about tourism. Medical tourism is trying to make a comeback, and Thomas Cook, for example, is one of the names that tried doing this some years back. People have more money; they'll take tours, travel. You buy Indigo, you buy ancillaries in airlines, you buy an updater services. The gig economy plays kind of support you. All these new airports, 52 new destinations, you'll need people to work and ground services and so many things. So that's the way to look at it. Saying which pockets of consumption are either underinvested or underowned, and you'll be able to find a whole list in the value chain. It might not just be prominent names, but that's what we've been doing. So mining, there's so much being talked about mining. You have AI engineering, Tejo, these are pure mining equipment guys. So that's where a lot of capex will get directed eventually. So I'm sure we have enough to do, and we'll have to wait for 7th of Feb to really see some decisive moves, but we'll discuss more on Monday.
By the way, Vishal Mega Mart is also one of the consumption plays and affordable consumption plays, and that's up nearly about 7-8%. And NIIT, given the focus on skilling, NIIT Limited has moved up close to about 7%, and Zensar, sort of an unexplained move, but that's up nearly about 10.5%, and pretty good volumes today on that.
All right, so let's, I guess, wrap it up on that.
But I think Prakash put it nicely, gimmicky. I think that's the word he used, right? And I think that nicely summarizes, at least not all. I mean, there is, of course, a boost, no doubt. It's positive consumption.
In the long term, it's going to be very favorable, but right now you just keep throwing some balls in there.
Animal spirits are they unleashed?
It's good if it's not only on one day. Let it build up.
No, I'm saying, does the budget unleash the animal spirits?
Not yet, no.
All right, so we'll, let Prakash hold on to his thoughts. Maybe take the Sunday off, speak on Monday once again, as Ramdev ji said. Monday is Monday.
It's a tamed animal for now.
Unleash himself over the weekend.
Unleash himself over the weekend as well. So, let's wrap it up with the consumption stock doing extremely well. Nothing to show for on the Nifty. Just a 40-point downtick. If you looked at just the open and the close of the market, it wouldn't look like it's the budget day. But if you looked at the consumption stocks, it would look like, okay, apna time aa gaya. Is that how one would summarize the day?
Well, that's right. And if you looked at the railway stocks, you would say it was budget day because nothing came to them. And all those stocks, in fact, they went home with sharp cuts. Aircon was down close to 10%, RBNL down close to around 10%, IRFC as well. And actually, we got used to it in the last few budgets that something will come for the railways. This time around, they missed out, as Mangalam said. Consumption was the top gainer. You had some of these economy-facing companies, capex, defense, all of them did sell off in today's trading session.
You know, just one thing, guys. Mangalam said that this did not look like a budget day. Actually, if you go by the last two budgets, this looked exactly like the budget day on the Nifty. The reason is February 2024, which is before the election, right? The budget, the Nifty closed down 0.1%.
That was the interim budget.
Interim. Final July 2024, minus 0.1.
Again, that was the first short, small budget.
And guess what? The change is 0.06% today. So in that sense, and I mean, go back to 2023 as well, I mean, 0.3% lower. So actually, last three budgets, there has been less than 0.5% change on the day of the budget. And actually, even intraday, the moves, I think today the intraday move is about, I don't know, 1.25%, 1.5%. But otherwise, it's been largely, maybe not even 1.5% today. But it's been very quiet on budget days for the last three, and I think now for the fourth budget as well. So I think we are done for the day. Markets ending slightly lower on a very, very kind of a tentative note, but not very much to take away one way or the other. Consumption, the clear leader, and of course the headline from the budget was the personal income tax cuts. And that too not without drama, because as the finance minister initially announced that 4.4 fiscal deficit number, markets assumed there's not going to be too much in terms of help on the taxes front, but she saved the best for the last with that personal income tax relief, which is amounting to about 1 lakh crores or so. From all of us here, it's goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Rima.
Well, and before we go, let's just quickly tell our viewers that CNBC-TV18 is the #1 business news outlet even on YouTube. It's the most watched channel today on Budget Day among all the English business news outlets. So CNBC-TV18 has clocked in more than 3.3 lakh concurrent views on YouTube. And this is more than 40 times than our competitor. CNBC-TV18 continues to remain your budget headquarters for the last 25 years. And we would like to thank all our viewers for that. Thank you.
The indirect tax reforms and changes in direct taxes in Part B. Financial sector reforms. The FDI limit for the insurance sector will be raised from 74 to 100%. This enhanced limit will be available for those companies which invest the entire premium in India. The current guardrails and conditionalities associated with foreign investment will be reviewed and simplified. The services of India Post Payment Bank will be deepened and expanded in rural areas. NABFID will set up a partial credit enhancement facility for corporate bonds for infrastructure. Public sector banks will develop Grameen Credit Score Framework to serve the credit needs of SHG members and people in rural areas. A forum for regulatory coordination and development of pension products will be set up. To implement the earlier announcement on simplifying the KYC processes, the revamped Central KYC Registry will be rolled out in 2025. We will also implement a streamlined system for periodic updating. Presently, taxpayers can claim the annual value of self-occupied properties as nil only on the fulfillment of certain conditions. Considering the difficulties faced by taxpayers, it is proposed to allow the benefit of 2 such self-occupied properties without any condition. To streamline the process of transfer pricing and to provide an alternative to yearly examination, I propose to introduce a scheme for determining arm's length price of international transaction for a block period of 3 years. This will be in line with global best practices. With a view to reduce litigation and provide certainty in international taxation, the scope of safe harbor rules is being expanded. A number of senior and very senior citizens have very old national savings schemes accounts. As interest is no longer payable on such accounts, I propose to exempt withdrawals made from NSS by individuals on or after 29th August 2024. I am also proposing to allow similar treatment to NPS Vatsalya accounts as is available to normal NPS accounts subject to overall limits. The middle class provides strength for India's growth. This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees. I propose to 1. Remove 7 tariff rates. This is over and above the 7 tariff rates removed in 23-24 budget. The revised estimate of the fiscal deficit is 4.8% of the GDP.
ये बजट एक फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट सेविंग्स को बढ़ाएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाएगा, कंजम्पशन को बढ़ाएगा और ग्रोथ को भी तेजी से बढ़ाएगा।
ये भारत सरकार का बजट है कि बिहार सरकार का बजट है? आपने बिहार के अलावा किसी और प्रदेश का नाम सुना वित्त मंत्री जी के पूरे बजट भाषण में?
The infrastructure is not going for the rest of the country. It's only going towards Bihar because we all know that this year is the Bihar election. So basically, for essence, and Maharashtra has been ignored, and Tamil Nadu, there's not a single word for Tamil Nadu.